Say what you want about Justin Trudeau, but you cannot deny one thing. He believes in freedoms, like the freedom of expression or freedom of press. Unless, of course, you're Indian press, in which case you're branded fake news.
Say what you want about Justin Trudeau, but there's one thing that's becoming crystal clear. His leadership is a masterclass in contradiction. The man who champions freedoms like expression and the press suddenly cries fake news when it's inconvenient, especially when it comes to the Indian media. Imagine branding an entire country's press as fake because they dare to criticize you. Talk about irony. Trudeau, the self-proclaimed defender of free speech, seems to buckle under scrutiny, labeling critiques as personal attacks. Now, let's be real. The Indian media isn't one to take such accusations lying down, and they're calling him out for what they see as selective outrage. Trudeau, instead of addressing serious issues, is busy obsessing over YouTube followers. Seriously? While his country faces real problems, his focus is on subscriber counts. Does he think internet stats will magically solve Canada's crises? This whole mess escalated when Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a man India labeled a terrorist for years, was assassinated. Trudeau immediately accused India of being behind it, but offered zero evidence. None. Meanwhile, Nijjar's murky past, including a rap sheet that reads like a crime drama and an Interpol notice, was conveniently brushed aside by Trudeau's government. How does a leader expect credibility when his own narrative is riddled with holes? But here's where it gets even messier. The Indian media has pointed out that while Canadian diplomats cry foul over being portrayed in a bad light, it was Indian diplomats in Canada who faced real threats, shootings, vandalism, and intimidation. If roles were reversed, how would Canadians feel about such negligence from their leader? Trudeau's selective outrage is on full display here. As if all this wasn't enough, Trudeau's reliance on political ally Jagmeet Singh is raising even more eyebrows. Singh has been linked to pro-Khalistani events where violence against India was celebrated. Yet Trudeau clings to this alliance for political survival, seemingly oblivious to the optics. Does he really think this will go unnoticed? Even international leaders are speaking up. India's External Affairs Minister slammed Trudeau's support for extremists, warning it's damaging Canada's reputation on the global stage. At home, opposition leader Pierre Poilievre is hammering Trudeau for his lack of transparency, accusing him of playing politics instead of protecting national interests. Poilievre, never one to mince words, called out Trudeau's double standards, pointing to his silence on Chinese interference while suddenly going after India. And let's not forget, cracks are forming within Trudeau's own party. A Canadian MP of Indian descent openly criticized the government for pandering to Khalistani radicals and dividing communities. When your own colleagues start speaking out, it's a sign the ship is taking on water. So, here we are. Trudeau's leadership is under fire from all sides: Indian media, international leaders, opposition figures, and even his own team. His strategy of shifting blame and playing victim is starting to backfire. The big question now is, will Trudeau rise to the occasion and restore trust, or will he double down on the very tactics that got him into this mess? One thing's for sure, Canada and the world are watching, and time is running out. Trudeau's current political tightrope is wobbling more with every passing day. His critics aren't just piling on, they're delivering blow after blow, highlighting inconsistencies, contradictions, and what some might call outright hypocrisy. The Indian media has gone from defending their stance to systematically dismantling Trudeau's narrative, connecting dots that paint a picture of negligence and selective priorities. It's almost as if Trudeau underestimated the global audience's ability to see through the smoke and mirrors. Take Jagmeet Singh, for example. Trudeau's alliance with him isn't just politically convenient, it's also politically dangerous. Singh's past affiliations with pro-Khalistani events are public knowledge, and his reluctance to condemn violence against India raises serious concerns. How can Trudeau claim to champion unity while aligning with someone whose record suggests otherwise? It's not just the opposition that's pointing this out, it's his own base. When MPs within your party start echoing criticisms usually reserved for your rivals, you know you've got a serious problem. But Trudeau's problems don't end with domestic politics. His international reputation is taking a nosedive. India's External Affairs Minister wasn't subtle when addressing Trudeau's handling of Khalistani extremists, calling it harmful not only to Canada-India relations but also to Canada's standing on the world stage. When seasoned diplomats start openly criticizing your approach as reckless and divisive, it's not a critique you can easily shrug off. Pierre Poilievre, meanwhile, is seizing the moment. His sharp attacks on Trudeau's lack of transparency and his contrasting silence on Beijing's interference have resonated with Canadians tired of what they see as Trudeau's selective outrage. Poilievre's not just scoring political points. He's tapping into a broader sentiment of disillusionment with Trudeau's leadership. It's a sentiment that isn't just confined to opposition voters, it's creeping into Trudeau's own ranks. And then there's the question of evidence, or the lack thereof. Trudeau's explosive accusation against India over Nijar's assassination was delivered with a gravity that suggested damning proof. Yet, weeks later, the world is still waiting for anything concrete. This gap between rhetoric and reality is eroding whatever credibility he might have had. Without solid evidence, Trudeau's claims start to look more like political maneuvering than a genuine pursuit of justice. The irony is palpable. Trudeau's government accuses Indian media of being biased, yet his administration's actions have done little to inspire trust. If anything, the Indian media has leaned into the controversy, using their platforms to expose what they see as Trudeau's double standards. They've turned the tables, highlighting Canada's sheltering of extremists while accusing others of interference. It's a narrative that's gaining traction, and Trudeau's attempts to discredit it are only drawing more attention to the issue. At this point, Trudeau's leadership is at a crossroads. Will he address the criticisms head-on, acknowledge missteps, and work towards rebuilding trust? Or will he continue doubling down on a narrative that fewer and fewer people are buying? One thing is certain. This isn't just about Canada's relationship with India or the fallout from a single incident. It's about Trudeau's ability, or inability, to lead a country through complex, challenging times without resorting to blame-shifting and political theater. The clock is ticking, and the stakes couldn't be higher. Trudeau's legacy, his party's future, and Canada's reputation on the world stage are all on the line. It's a defining moment for his leadership, and the choices he makes now will determine whether he can weather this storm, or if it will mark the beginning of the end for his time in power.